And just out of curiosity, are you recording a side angle on the Komodo?
I can record it. I looked at it and I was like, I probably should, and then I ran out of time.
Yeah,
So if you want me to, I can. I can stick it in there real quick and hit record.
I mean,
go for it. Yeah, that's
if
great.
It'll take you 2 seconds. It never hurts.
Yeah.
Like, what do we got to lose? But am I piecing together right now that you have a Komodo for like your camera webcam? Because I'm not.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything else. That's the problem.
Well, we're definitely gonna add that.
Yeah, I mean, I could have pulled out one of the Alexas, but I figured that
Light
not
flex.
make any difference.
Light flex, one of the Alexas. Welcome back to another episode of the Rough Cut Club. I am your host, Joey Nicotra, here with my business partner, friend, and just incredible human being, Mr. Shane Reitzammer. Shane, how are you doing today, man?
Great, man. I love that intro. The last part's excellent.
Yeah, man.
Great human being.
You are a really great human being, and you've taught me how to be a better human being. So we are blessed by your presence today in the studio.
How do they do that? Is it this? There you
Boom.
go.
That's going to go great on the story. I love it. Well, bro, dude, I am super excited about our guest that we have today. We have a director of photography extraordinaire in our presence, blessing us with his wisdom today. And we are super excited to announce that he has been an Emmy-nominated documentary winner. Emmy-nominated winner? Is that a thing?
Emmy-nominated.
Emmy-nominated. Yeah. We're gonna call it an Emmy-nominated documentary winner today, along with a feature film creator and someone who has made major network television commercials, to name a few, working for the Air Force, National Geographic, and even Patron Tequila. Welcoming to the show for the very first time, Andrew Barrera. Thank you for being on the show, my friend.
Hey, man. That was very nice of you. I wouldn't even bring up the Emmy stuff, but
well, hey,
everybody's Emmy nominated.
Yeah, but it's got a nice ring to it. You know what I mean? Not everyone could say it, but that's awesome, dude. Well, thank you for being here today, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well,
podcasts are interesting. So.
Yes, I love it, man. Well, we're excited to dig into your story. Before we do that, one of the ways that Andrew and I met was actually on a TV show that I do not believe has ever seen the light of day, and probably will never see the light of day, but it was essentially about ex-professional athletes slaughtering hogs on top of trucks with machine guns, if I got that log line correct.
Oh, wow. That's
man.
Yeah, and this was actually the production where Andrew pulled me aside afterwards, after being almost shot by bullets by being sent downrange, and was just like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, you can't not put yourself in a situation like that. But that was a wild production, man.
Yeah, I still talk about that with my friend Julio that came out on that job. So because he lives next door to me.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we could go all day into that if you really want to.
Yeah.
So,
well,
safety-wise or...
Oh, yeah, dude. And the only reason I don't think the production actually... I mean, there's probably a number of reasons, but the main actor, character, person flipped the truck on the production and wound up having to go to the hospital. And so I don't think...
It wasn't just any truck. It was a rally... Baja truck.
Yeah.
You're talking $500,000 truck.
Yeah,
and
like
this guy's doing a donut in the middle of the night and flip it over and wreck it.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. This was definitely a wild production, one that I had not been on before, but they were racing like Baja trucks and FPV. It felt like they were doing all these, just like throwing all these insane ideas at a wall and whatever sticks, like they went for it. And it was insane, man.
Dang. I hope production, thank God for production insurance on that shoot, I imagine.
I mean, not to bad dog anybody, but I don't know if I'm sure they had production insurance, but I don't think production insurance was going to cover that thing.
You were doing what?
You're right. I never saw anything come out of that, to be honest. But I mean, that's like one out of like many times that I shoot stuff that never goes anywhere.
Yeah.
That one was. I bring that particular job up every time we talk about guns on set and safety, and that has come up even more ever since the whole Rust
Yeah.
thing, right?
Helena and
because I had my
everything,
whole
too.
theory on that, on like who was to blame and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and I was really into reading all the stuff with it. But like being in the industry, being around guns my whole life, and also being on indie film sets, you can definitely get into really hairy situations
Yeah.
and be a complete idiot. And
Well, and I would love
So-
to, I mean, even before we get into some of your story, I'd love to know your thoughts on it since it's come up. Like where, obviously safety is the number one, thing on set, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on even just that whole situation, if you're all right talking
well,
about it.
yeah, I mean, even with my experience on some other film sets, I could tell you right off the bat that they were trying to figure out where the live rounds ended up, right? Like how all of a sudden live rounds are on the set. And this is only my theory. This is not like obviously something, but I've been on indie film sets where there's guns, real guns on set, and after the shoot, maybe on a weekend, they take the talent to go, or crew to go fire off a couple rounds because guns are cool and blah blah blah. That's what everybody treats it. So, and I've been on a particular film set in Terralingua. It was the same thing. They had a real gun. They went out and shot a couple rounds over the weekend, live rounds at a target range, and then they come back and use those same guns for the set. So I have a feeling something got mixed up in there, and that's the reason why there was a live round in that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my theory, because indie films can be kind of crazy. The other one is, Alec Baldwin says that, man, I'm really going into it, but Alec Baldwin's like, oh, I didn't pull the trigger. I'm like, yeah, but with a revolver that has a hammer, he pulls the hammer back and lets go. It's the same thing as pulling a trigger. You're going to shoot it and it's going to go off.
Yeah.
And so there was no like gun safety experience with that. And I know people that know that AD, and I know, so it's like there was a lot of wrong things that, safety wise that went through the,
And I heard too, like even the whole crew like almost walked, or I think they did walk from the production the day before because of all of the unsafe things that are happening. And it's just I will say that as devastating as that situation that was, I think one of the silver linings to it was that it was a wake up call for all of indie and non-indie filmmakers to prioritize and put safety back to the top of the equation of film sets, because so often it's a neglected thing at the expense of the picture and doing whatever it takes to get the shot. And it is really brought back safety and specifically gun safety back into our industry.
Yeah. I mean, I know particularly on our shoot, that was the one in particular where when I asked for clearing the gun and all that stuff, they approached me like I was being the high maintenance one, and like, oh, what's wrong? Why don't you trust us? And like, why are you being so high maintenance? Like, it's fine, And I'm like, I have more, other than the guys that were actually shooting the guns, like the military guys. I had more experience with firearms than the rest of the crew that was there. Plus, even the guys that were doing, the sports guys that were doing the promo for this thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been a hunter my entire life. And like, I'm the one that's high maintenance. Come on, give me a break,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it's the priority of safety and how it's even done on set, like you're talking about. Because I've been on 2 different sets, period pieces, and one leg of this production was AD with armor walks around and says, "Would you like to see the chamber, the gun? It's unloaded." Went to everybody on set, and I was kind of agreeing to that, and I was like, okay, cool. Oh, thank you. I got it. And I was like, this makes me feel good. But then on another project, when somebody had asked, same thing. It was like, what? Why do we need to do that? Why do we need to show everybody? And so, we're taking too much time. But I think I totally respected slowing down, let everybody see that the chamber's empty. This gun has been cleared. Now we're going to put it into play, into blocking even. Anyways, I agree with that perspective.
And you should never be afraid to ask. There's way more safety involved in car filming in vehicles than there are with guns half the time.
Mm.
And you know, I am a gun owner and I go hunting, but like it's backwards. And I think it's because a lot of people in the film industry think that guns are super cool. Cars have been around forever, and they don't take that as seriously as what a gun is. And so even that particular job was a big wake up call, I think.
Yeah.
For even me to like, okay, you gotta check these things, and don't be afraid to do it, because most people don't want to be labeled that high maintenance DP, and it's like, nobody should die on set. It's ridiculous.
No. And just for like total like context for everyone listening too, we were sent 5 miles downrange so that they could try to hit the world's longest target. And they sent us, I think, within like 50 to 70 feet of the target. And a bullet landed like 6 or 7 feet in front of me, which if you think about the angle that it has to be coming down, like it was just a couple of feet over my head. And almost grazed me multiple times. And we were ducking behind a truck, like for safety, trying to get a shot. And it was really wild. Had no idea
I can't believe you did that.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what I was signing up for when I went down there.
Yikes.
Anyway.
I don't even think I knew that you were down there, because I would have told you no.
Yeah. Well, they should have just set GoPros up and us like hiked back like a mile away. But anyway, man, dude, on the note of safety, I was watching in your reel and a car flipped and almost hit you. Dude, tell me about that.
Yep. That was also a show that never went to air.
There seems to be a recurring pattern.
I get on the dangerous things. I'm on 9 Lives, but it was a thing for Discovery Channel. We were doing this like rock buggy guys in podunk country building these massive engines, 800, 900, 1,000 horsepower dune buggies to race them and go uphill and all that stuff. And so that's what that whole sizzle reel that we shot was. And this one in particular, we had filmed them going, I'm telling you, like an incline like this. I mean, it was, and those tires are so big that when if they kick up any rocks, like I swear to God, right before that even happened, I was filming one of these buggies going up, and his tire was spinning so much, and he's kind of swerving doing one of these things, and kicks up a giant, I'm telling you, like a giant, timber log, and it's flying through the air, and it hits a guy 7 feet in front of me right in the face. He gets knocked out, ends up with stitches all the way across. And so like when I did that series or did that show, they would always tell us like, hey, when they're racing, you get behind stuff, you get behind trees, because they're going to kick up rocks, they're going to kick up debris, and you always use the trees as like your protection, And so I was on the side of the track where they said that when they flip, they're going to flip the other way. And so I was like, thought it was fine. And then obviously that whole thing happened, which I thought was crazy. And then for the sake of the shot, my producer says, hey, go over here and get this from this angle. And I'm like, okay, not even thinking about it. So I walk over to the other side of the track and found a bunch of trees, and I shot behind the trees, thinking like, oh, if it flips, it'll hit the tree or whatever, I just didn't think it was actually going to happen, because I've shot a couple of these races already when it did. And sure enough, the guy goes up, he gets up on his hind legs, and instead of doing what those guys do, which I think would be to hit the gas when you're up, to hit the gas, it puts your tire here starts spinning, so it puts your face back down. But instead, he hit reverse, and it flipped him. And the moment that happened, because this isn't the first time I've been on I was in a helicopter crash once too, and it was the same thing. I'm shooting, through an eyepiece. I'm looking down at the screen or whatever, and I'm zoomed in on something. But the way I was operating it, it was basically with 2 eyes open. And then the moment that happened, and he started to do this, I immediately zoomed out on the camera. And you could see it in the, I don't think it's in that demo, but it's probably somewhere around there. And I basically from instinct, just point the camera whichever way I'm looking. So, because I'm on an easy rig too, it's really easy. I just shift my whole body. And when I was in a helicopter crash, it was the same thing. Like I would look this way, and I'm like, now I'm not even looking. I'm just kind of doing this and moving but I'm so wide you could see it. And so that's ended up what happened. And I'm just holding on to that tree for dear life, hoping that it was gonna hit the tree. And of course, it did. Everybody on the top of the hill thought I got crushed for sure. And it was like, we just kept going. And then right after that, we shoot a whole nother scene, and I'm in front of the guy, and he does this hind leg thing, and like his tires are coming right at me. And then it's just, I've done some stupid stuff when I was younger. I mean, I still do, but that was definitely a sight.
Well, we are definitely going to loop in some of those clips just for the BTS, but I saw that and it was like it makes you jump out of your seat because you think you're going to get crushed. And dude, you had to.
I have to put it in there every time.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's just like, what is this guy is not afraid of anything.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately you had a wall of trees, but man, we're glad you're okay and you're able to do this podcast with us today.
Definitely 9 lives, like you said, man.
Andrew, 9 lives.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Well, dude, we want to, man. Well, tell us a little bit about what your business currently looks like right now and some of the things that you're getting into when you're not avoiding cars trying to flip onto you.
My business right now is almost non-existent, I guess, right? Because of the writer's strike and everything else. I mean, it's Texas. It's the summer. Nobody wants to shoot in the summer.
Yeah.
But the writer's strikes have not helped with any of this stuff, and SAG strike. So like, I think everybody's trying to just do what they can for work. But I'm gearing up for an HBO Magnolia Network series on barbecue, high school barbecue competitions and stuff. And so that's going to take place all over Texas over the course of like 6 months. So I'm kind of answering emails right now, and then I'll go shoot for 4 or 5 days in Dallas or something. And then so I got that. I got a short film coming. It's pushing pennies right now. So,
man.
I'm just being a dad at this point. So.
I love it, man. Yeah, the writer's strike, we felt it over here. I mean, we do a lot of commercial work in corporate and try to get as much like narrative as we can. But I think I have like at least 3 or 4 features right now that are being affected by the writer's strike or something close to that. Or I know it's tough out here, but even go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, even prior to right now, I know that you have done a ton of like, feature work, doc work, reality television. How did you tell us a little bit on how you even just got into this industry, just so we can get a little bit of your backstory into just your journey into starting this thing?
It's funny. I get that question asked a lot of times, and it's not one direct route. The quickest way I could explain my start was I worked for Disney World in Orlando. I got to be a PA on some of the Disney World stuff, so Extreme Makeover Home Edition, Super Nanny, that kind of stuff, and then worked my way as a PA for a production company out in Orlando, and then ended up becoming a DP when I moved back to Austin. So Disney was great, but it wasn't film school.
Yeah.
And not that you need it. And I think one of your podcasts, like I was watching one of your podcasts talking about film school the other day, and you don't need it. It's just you got to just do the work, right?
Yeah.
So essentially that was my background, has been documentary and reality shows. So when I moved back to Austin, those don't really exist that much. I mean, now that they do, but so the bulk of my work has been doc related, and I would say the last maybe 10 years I've been pushing more towards commercial and scripted. So I think in Austin now people know me more in that commercial world, and then now now that my kids are a little bit older, I can start pushing into doing more bigger narrative work than I had the opportunity before. So
I love it, man. Yeah. Well, and one of the cool, I'm not sure if it was a doc or a TV show, but you got to work for National Geographic recently, correct?
Yeah, I did a sizzle reel for a show that's out on National Geographic Discovery Plus right now called Never Say Never. And I got that call because I had done some work for the production company on a bunch of other sizzle reels. And they were like, hey, do you want to go to Iceland for a week and then go to Hawaii for a week? I was like,
Sign me up.
yeah, sign me up.
Yeah.
I'll do it for nothing.
Right.
Let me just go. So, so we shot a sizzle reel for basically 2 weeks. And then a year later, they ended up selling the show, and the show went during 2021 or 2022. I was not on that. The showrunner from LA like hired his whole crew out to shoot it. So, but I guess one of their episodes didn't do very well on content, so they ended up using the Iceland stuff in one of the series, which I think might be this Sunday if they air it. So at least I get a credit for it. So a lot of the sizzle reels, when they sell and you're not on the show, you don't get credit for the show, even though you basically created the show. So I was very fortunate. Though they are the guy's a really great guy. I hope it goes season 2. But that same production company is the one that I'm going to be doing this other gig for. So, trying not to burn the bridges, I guess, when you get so mad is a thing to have.
Yeah.
So,
well, dude, I saw some of the locations that y'all did for that with just like these ice caves and whatnot, and it looked just magnificent. Tell me about
if you were ever gonna write another movie or go shoot a movie, I would shoot it in Iceland. It makes total sense why every single big budget movie like Dune and I could name a whole list of other ones, but the reason why they shoot there is because the sun never sets, so it's always at a certain horizon. So you got magic hour constantly, and when you do have magic hour, it lasts for 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening. So it's just a DP's paradise for architecture and landscape and just everything about it. There's no trees, so you're seeing for miles on end. Iceland's dope, and everybody there was like the crew that we had worked on really big stuff. And I'm sitting there going like, I'm just shooting a sizzle reel for Nat Geo. This isn't anything. So, if you can go, I want to go back just to visit and take my drone and shoot some more stuff, but
that's awesome.
I wish we went there to go film the the lights, for the series. And of course it was like the worst time to go for the lights. So, what we got is what we got, but I didn't get to see, there was no like great sunset because it was rainy and cloudy all day and stuff. But in general, Iceland is very accommodating and a beautiful place. I would love to go. I mean, Alaska's kind of like that too with the sunset stuff, but Iceland just has a beautiful landscape. So.
Well, I know that Iceland is typically the not as cold country as Greenland. It's all backwards and whatnot, but it looked like where y'all went was really cold. And so I was curious. I mean, it sounds all lovely, but did y'all have what were some of the challenges with that production? Because I know that when we filmed in like 13-degree weather, I think we've talked about this before, but we actually had the grease inside of our lenses freeze and like lock up like the entire production because of how cold it was. And so I'm curious if you guys had like any challenges just due to the extreme weather that it looked like you guys were in.
Yeah, I've shot in extreme weather before. I've shot in snow and negative degree weather and stuff like that, mainly with a red camera and some other, FS7s or whatever. But Iceland is interesting because like you definitely, it doesn't really hit freezing all the time. In certain areas it may freeze, depending on your elevation. And then you have really a lot of moisture because you're also on an island. And so you're dealing with like multiple temperatures in the day, basically. And I took the Alexa Mini LF for the first time, and I'm sure they had shot a bunch of other stuff in Iceland with it, but I was having issues with not only the batteries. Obviously, the batteries don't last as long when it's really cold out, but I was having issues with the EVF finder fogging up and not going away for days. So I was sitting there with like a blow dryer and trying to like get the EVF to do its thing, or one of the lenses fogged up. So doing the same thing, you're taking a blow dryer and just hope to God that you can get it. So, you got those kind of challenges, I think, which aren't typical, but like, when you film in all parts of the country or the world or whatever, you kind of can expect that these things are going to happen, and you're going to get some moisture and some things. You're going to get, things are going to get messed up, and you just kind of have to prepare for it and hope for the best, So
yeah. Well, you mentioned that you shot on the Alexa Mini LF, and I know that Andrew is one of the only people that has a red Komodo as a webcam for his camera. So I'm curious to know, when you're prepping for a project, how you go about choosing, which camera that you're going to use. You got a red in your kit, you got an ARRI in your kit. As someone who's utilized both, how do you go and decide what the right camera is for the project?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I'm working on that with like 3 other potential projects right now. And I think it's 2 parts. A lot of it has to deal with like the imagery that you want to capture, right? Are you capturing faces or landscapes, stuff like that? And then the other part is, can you carry all this stuff? And so that'll determine if I'm going to go Alexa or go Mini LF or Alexa 35, or is it a low light situation, non-low light, right? So, like I'm prepping on a short film right now that like we don't have a huge G&E budget, so we're gonna probably go Alexa 35 and shoot more low light stuff to protect all of our blacks and our highlights and all that. Like when I did Iceland, we shot everything pretty much on the Mini LF, all the main stuff, because it was pretty landscapes and pretty faces, and so you wanted that shallow depth and all that. But we had to backpack to places to get there, and so because of that, I would put the Mini LF in a backpack and carry that with me and hike. But in between all that stuff, we pulled out the Komodo, because it was literally, you could hold it with one hand and shoot all the necessary stuff you need to get. And then when you get to your content stuff, you would stop down, grab the camera, and shoot the real things, So it was an easy mix to combine those 2 things. And I've used that setup multiple times, because one, I like the I like the Alexa look. Obviously everybody does. But shooting in full frame for landscapes and for portraits are beautiful. And so I liked to do that versus going just straight red, right? I mean, I think most of the red stuff kind of all looks the same, whether it's 8K or 6K or 5K, because it doesn't really change the overall bokeh or look unless you change your lenses. But there is a huge difference between shooting on a Mini LF and an Alexa 35 when you're going into portrait stuff or when you're going into landscape stuff. I think it really changes. So, there's a lot of factors that come into play when picking out your gear, but I wouldn't say one thing is particularly better than the other. It's more about just what's going to make it easier for you and what's going to make your job better, right? Like I would shoot on, if I could, I would shoot on a Komodo a ton, or even a red. But the problem is, like, when you have to get all the necessary stuff to have built-in ND filters, right? And Alexa has built-in ND filters. I'm trying to push to shoot Alexa on a TV show, but it's like, it's heavy. It requires all these other things. We're going to go Sony FX9 or FX6, right? So it's like, there's a huge variety of situations that you got to think about when you're going for those things.
That's great, man. I love all that insight. Yeah. And one of the things too that I think makes your kit unique is Andrew is one of the few people that has a full set of ARRI Master Prime lenses. So
COVID has been I think I'm in way more debt than I have ever been in, more than my house. And yeah, it's like I own Master Primes, and but I've gotten tired of shooting with them because it's the same look every time. And when I ended up buying the Mini LF, I started combining my gear with another business partner of mine who's also DP in Austin, and I owned Master Primes, he owned Cook Anamorphics, and now all of a sudden between the two of us, I'll not to make anybody jealous, but if any project that comes my way, I pretty much have the pick of the litter of whatever I want in the lens category that we have, plus the camera category we have, versus going to a rental house. Like now we have Black Wings, we've got Cook Anamorphics, we just got the Lomo Anamorphics, which we shot on your thing.
Yep.
When we were together. I ended up buying them because I ended up going and doing that Lithuania job, and we wanted some vintage glass.
They flare so pretty.
Flares, yeah. And then he's got the Zeiss Supremes, I got the Master Primes, and then we both bought the Signature Primes together. So, yeah, we've got a set of like 6 lens sets, and then he's got a Mini LF, I got a Mini LF, now we bought another Mini LF. Now we each own 2 Alexa 35s, and it's hopefully I can get it rented out. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Well, I'm selling everything.
Yeah. And I was going to ask, how often are you able to rent those for productions?
Not right now because everything's slow, but I would say last year, almost every project that I was on, a camera and a lens set was going out.
Love it.
For him, same thing, right? And then on top of that, MPS, which is the rental house in Dallas and Austin, they're sub-renting our Signature Primes, or they're sub-renting the Cooks or the Black Wings. And we got other people that I'm getting people right now asking for the Lomos, and so we've become a little bit of a boutique rental house.
Cool.
Having the cameras, I mean, everybody's getting Alexa 35s, but having the cameras before everybody else did has helped.
Yeah.
And so we've always been looking at like, okay, what's the next thing we can get? And it's like, we just got the underwater housing. So now we're the only underwater housing you can get in Texas for the Alexa Mini LF, and Alexa 35.
Yeah.
Which it's only been on one job right now. So we're just like, we'll sit here in hopes that this stuff makes money in 4 years. And if it does, great,
Right.
But
I love it, man. Well, before I get off the topic of just prepping on projects, I want to know if there, obviously when a script comes in for the very first time and we get a chance to look at it, it's our job to interpret, the director's vision and help bring that to life as a DP. And so for other up and coming DPs, I was wondering if there's any ninja tips or tactics that you kind of use or could recommend giving to up and coming filmmakers when prepping for a role. What are some key things that you do as a DP to kind of, best set up the project for success?
One of the biggest things that I really like to use is Shot Deck, which, I'm sure you guys have obviously heard of, but that has been kind of a lifesaver for a lot of directors who don't have that and don't know what it is. And then all of a sudden you're pulling out, oh, I want it to be moody or with blue light. And then all of a sudden you have a plethora of stuff to use for your images that you could use as a pitch deck to sell it or to help them sell it, stuff like that. So I really love that. I mean, it's kind of what I was using to prep this next show that we're looking at. I was like, I like everything to look like Euphoria. And so then I'm pulling up Euphoria stills, and, they did all the dirty work for you. So it's like kind of the easiest thing to grab. And then, so I use that. I use a ton of Instagram, man, as inspiration, and just like pulling up every single, BTS of like how they shot this, and like, well, on this script, the director's talking about doing a full 360. I'm like, well, how can we do that without a dolly or this? And then you're just, the internet has been such an amazing tool in the last 10 years, 5 years for DPs, that like it's really hard to be on top of it and be I wouldn't say competitive. I mean, it's very competitive right now, but it's even harder because of that, because it's just everything's there and you can look it up. And so everybody's trying new stuff. And because of that, you're just going, oh, that's a really good idea. I'm going to use this. And then, so I don't know. I mean, that's the best thing I get out of, I guess, for prep.
I was having a conversation with someone recently about shot deck and just the double-edged sword with it, where, we have all of these examples to go pull from and create a beautiful mood board and treatment plan and pitch deck for a project. But then what I also find is that sometimes you as a DP wind up just going and recreating the shot because you have it in your mind from shot deck and you've already seen it and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that. How do you feel like utilizing shot deck has impacted your overall creativity on a project where, sometimes I have found myself like just replicating what I've seen in the shot deck go by instead of like bringing something new to a project? Do you feel like utilizing shot deck has impacted the overall creativity that you add to a project and making it an Andrew original?
Not necessarily. I don't find that I end up recreating it exactly, because I think the scenarios are always going to be different, and your actors are going to be different, and it calls for different things. But to say that people get their inspiration from nobody but themselves is kind of crazy. Like musicians are the same way. Musicians rip off music from everybody, and that's how they end up with their style. And it's like, well, I took it from this artist and this artist and this artist, and I used all of that to make just one piece. And if you want to call that my style, then great, make it my style. But I would like to say that, like, yeah, I've got one particular style and that's how I roll, but you don't stay busy if you are only doing one thing. And which is why I think when you're going through my list of accomplishments, I do it all. And it's because, one, doing it all, the whole master of none thing that I think everybody hears, it's like, it's nice to be perfect at one particular way of shooting, or only movies or only this or whatever. But being able to take bits and pieces from every other project and every other way of shooting, I think makes your own style, but also keeps you really busy, because it means is, as a DP, you're very nimble to be able to adapt or come up with different creatively something different that the director wasn't thinking about for this boring shot, that now I'm saying, well, I can take my experience from, this project, which has nothing to do with scripted, and then bring it in there to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. So good. So good.
Plus, I like money. So, trying to stay busy is the biggest thing.
Got to
right?
stay busy.
So,
yeah. I agree. The experience transfers over, man. And that's why I love, we were in another podcast, talking about people that had edited right before they DP'd, or doing all of that helps you be able to put the pieces together of storytelling and filmmaking and creativity all together. So having that multitude of experiences, I've done a little bit of everything, and I take, like you said, you borrow from that, and I think it does kind of create your own style, because everybody's experience is different in those as well. Yeah. So I like being a master of none, I guess, because I like doing a little bit of everything.
Well, and I think too, one of the interesting things about being a DP is, like, whenever you're first learning how to light something well and make it cinematic, and you kind of have like this style that you grow into, and then as you master that first style, I think I have felt challenged to be flexible outside of that one look, and like be able to shoot things two different styles, like giving something a Wes Anderson look, or giving something, a Greg Fraser look, or whatever it is. Being a good DP is about having the ability to be able to implement different styles into whatever the script calls for. And so I think that that's one of the things that, having that background of a versatile shooting styles and whatnot helps you be a better DP overall to serve the script's needs above everything else.
Yeah. And I've been saying that to people for years, that like, you need to go, Sorry, I'm changing the ISO here. The sun keeps coming in and out, and I keep looking darker. So
It's getting real moody over there, man.
I know. Well, it's the window's right here, but it's the best looking Zoom call.
Yeah, I love it.
But like I've worked on projects where I try bringing somebody on who doesn't have maybe a network show or network credit or whatever, and just so they can get the experience, right? Of like, let's go and learn how to shoot it this way. And a lot of people some people in Austin that I've called on have been like, no, it's not going to excel me in my career if I do this gig. And I'm like, that's totally understandable. I totally get it. However, if you learn it, that's the best way to excel in anything is on the job training, right? You're not going to learn it in film school. And one, it gives you the credit. Now all of a sudden you got a network credit. You might as well take it. But then like you can kind of see how things are done a certain way, and then take that when you go into something that isn't that, if it's a reality show, and take that in your scripted and being able to kind of adapt and make it better because of what you learned on this. And it goes both ways, right? So having that experience, I think, as a startup, like DP or camera guy, like don't just be the person and be like, hey, I just graduated film school, I'm a DP, that's what I'm going to be, and that's the only job I'm going to take, and it's only going to be scripted work. I'm like, okay, that's fine, go for it. And there are some people that can do that and excel in it, but you aren't going to understand how everybody else's process is in the long run for every other possible gig that can come your way, unless you take those gigs on a smaller scale, or as like a AC or a camera guy, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Love it, man. That's some ninja tactics right there for the up and comers. Take every gig you can, man, especially when you're building your DP portfolio.
I will tell you, the only problem that I've experienced with that is sometimes you do get typecasted. Oh, call him because this is what he does. And so you have to really work hard in trying to not just be that way, right? Like, it has taken me a while to become more of a commercial DP than it is a documentary reality DP, because everybody knew me from that, so nobody was going to call me for anything else. So you have to constantly try to, and I'm doing that right now with scripted, doing a movie here and there. It's like, I can do scripted. I want to do movies. That's the most prestigious thing that you can get, and that's probably going to excel you further. But, you got to take the indie pay. You got to do that kind of stuff. But also, like, being able to branch out from doc and reality to be able to do that is very, very hard, and you've got to work at it to make sure that you don't get typecasted, but still do the other ones because you get paid.
Yeah. And experience, man. And I got to share this story. I was this was probably like 5-6 years ago, but I got on the set of Hulu, Warner Brothers, 1162. I don't remember the rest of the name, but it's the JFK thing, and I just took a PA job. And I'm on set as a PA. And I'm getting schooled, man, because it's like a Warner Brothers set, and I'm learning so much, and that's exactly why I did it. I actually, didn't make that much money. I worked like 18-hour days, but I saw how they did it, and how they did it right on set. And some things that I thought, wow, this could have been better. Y'all could have prepped us, with the green PAs for this type of lockdown. Anyways, and so that I still love that experience, even though I got my butt kicked. I didn't make any money, but I gained so much knowledge that then transfers over to the stuff that I really love doing, producing and directing, commercial content, documentary stuff, reality. And so having that experience, and I mean, I love features. I've worked camera, gimbal, all that stuff, but getting out there on different sets and networking too. I made great connections on that set. Now, the thing is too, I did kind of get stuck in that. They go, oh, you'd make a great second or a PA or a key PA or maybe even a second AD. You want to come up to Atlanta? And I'm like, it's not really what I want to do. But, you explore it and see what kind of connections you can make.
Well, and I was going to...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the networking piece is one of the big things to not overlook too. Like, when you get to go out on those jobs, like, you meet a lot of key grips, you meet a lot of other operators, you meet a lot of other people that can then refer you. And I think it's a super missed, just a a big piece of the equation. Even how our paths cross. I was a PA on the production that we worked on, I think, and I mean that was what 3-4 years ago at least. And I mean today we're still in touch because I took a PA job. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and you're killing it too. So it's not like
appreciate it.
you didn't know anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, those. Like I think money always. If the gig sucks but the pay is good, maybe contemplate what you want to do there. But if the gig's really good and the pay sucks, like see where do you think that this is going to help you in the next path that you want to take, right? So, it's all the things that you got to think about when you're even DPing, because like there's a lot of times like I think I sent you a video of this Outlaw TV thing. It's like I produced and directed that, and also shot it, right? So you never know where things are going to take you, but being able to learn everybody else's job or at least understand it only makes you better, and you can speak their language. That's the biggest thing. Because like I can't tell you how many times I've had phone calls with production managers or somebody on the producer world where you're trying to explain the stuff that you need to do your job, but because they don't know what any of the gear is or what it's even called or how much it costs, it makes your job a lot harder to even just communicate that, right? So being a producer, go and understand like the camera stuff and understand what things cost, and vice versa, flip it, right? Do the same thing. Now since I've produced a whole bunch of stuff for years, I'm sitting there going like, I'm hiring a DP and I'm telling him what he needs, and I'm seeing through some of the bullshit if he's going to pad it, right? So then it helps you become a little bit better in communicating, because you know what he's talking about, and you can either say yay or nay based on or come up with a better solution that maybe this person didn't understand beforehand. So it just makes the process so much easier in that sense, and just in the end a better successful shoot.
I love it, man. So much great wisdom and advice there. You mentioned Outlaw TV, man, and that you produced, directed, and shot it all in once. Tell me about Outlaw TV, bro.
Okay, so it hasn't come out yet, but I shot Monster Garage during COVID. So Jesse James and I have kept in touch. He lives down the street from me, so it's been kind of one of these nice things. And he reached out to produce this shoot for him, so he can go out and get money to possibly start this whole network. So right now, like that thing hasn't even come out. He's just now pitching this stuff, but he called me to do this, and we basically decided we were going to do a 3-day shoot, and I brought on another buddy of mine to help me co-direct it, because co-DP, co-direct it. So we had on the shoot, we had 3 DP directors, which the crew kind of was not about, but because of the intensity of what we were shooting and how much stuff was going on in multiple different places, it made total sense. And in the end, the product that we got is what we ended up with that the client loved. I've got hours and hours of amazing footage and a bunch of like slow-mo stuff. And anyways, I can go on and on. But I became more of a producer, director, DP, and then my other buddy was more the creative director DP. And then on another friend, it was strictly just, camera DP, just getting the stuff we need for this video. And so we ended up with like 6 different videos, but in 3 days, I blew $150,000 just with toys. Okay.
Oh my
I'm telling you, it was insane. I reached out to FreeFly. FreeFly sent me their new slow-mo camera, free of charge to just play with, which was great. And then we shot on a robot. We shot on a black arm, Ukraine arm. We had a Trinity Steadicam op. I mean, we had 5 cameras. It was an insane shoot, shooting it in the middle of the summer. But everybody that was on that job knew what was happening, because I like to communicate things to people. because that's part of your job as a DP anyway, is to delegate and be a communicator. And everybody walked away completely in a huge positive mode. And I didn't have one single person. Sorry, let me backtrack. I had several people come up to me and say, if this series goes, I want to be on it because this is cool. And I would love to just be a part of this whole thing. And it was great, So, I mean, that's the feedback you want to hear just on your own sets, versus like, God, like when we were talking about, God, you remember that set? That thing was stupid. So, you gotta. It was a good experience for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
well,
hoping it goes.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for it, man, and it was one of the most beautifully shot trailers I've seen in a very long time. So, hats off to you, bro.
Thank you.
Dude, you got another project that just came out with Ja Morant, yeah?
Ja Morant.
The basketball player with Hasbro.
Oh.
He forgot the A-list celebrity that he shot on film.
I know. Yeah. I did a Hasbro spot. It was, it was a kids toy thing with Ja Morant. Yeah, and that was that thing aired on like ESPN or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I forgot you're going through the stuff I sent you. But yeah, that was a hectic 1-day shoot.
Tell me about working with Ja, man, if you even remember who he is.
I don't have a whole lot to say about him because he was there for he walked in with his entourage and sat in the chair and we hit record. Like we did all the prep before he even showed up. So
Word.
Once we hit and record, we're just moving and just shooting all the little bits we needed on these interviews. And then I'm like, okay, we need you to hit with the basketball. And then he's bouncing the basketball around. So we spent the entire first day pure prep. And it was prepping, lighting, having all the cameras into place. And then he shows up with his entourage. We shoot. He's there. He was there for 60 minutes. That was it. So 2-day shoot 2-day, 1-day prep in that. And it was the quickest shoot. It's one of the quickest shoots that I've been on where our talent is not there for very long, and it was all for him, right? I mean,
wow.
I've worked on movies where like the major talent's there and they're on the full set, or they're on it for 10 days or 12 or 5. So you're dealing with them for a little bit longer. Like this was like, you're there for 60 minutes. That's all we get of him. And he's out, and we're not going to do this again. So you got to prep it and make sure everything's perfect. So when he shows up, you're just rolling at that point. So
that's super interesting, man. It's working with celebrity talent. It's just a different world, man. They walk in, everything's got to be set, and you just knock it out, and they're in and out, man.
Yeah, like I did that Outlaw TV thing. I did that with Paul Sr., right? And Paul Sr.'s, everybody knows who he is because of the memes, right? And Jesse James, I worked with him obviously several times. Paul Sr. is a very nice guy, but the moment he's on set, the producers treat him like he's a celebrity, and they treat him differently, and so it forces everybody else to also have that same mentality and treat them like they are special, obviously, but it just like it changes the mode a little bit, I think. It's like, hey, we're all in it together. We're all in the film industry. We're all here to make magic and whatever. And yeah, you're the celebrity, you're the face of it. But I don't like it when people treat them completely different, as if they're, I don't know, like the president or something. You know what I mean? Like it throws me off a lot. And I don't like the vibe of it sometimes. But I mean, that shoot was great. He was really nice. And was down to do whatever we needed to do, but it was the people outside of him and me that were telling us we need to go because he says we need to go. And you're looking at him going like, he's down for whatever, So it's like you always have the middleman, I think, overcomplicated sometimes.
This is something that we can't, as DPs, often have a whole lot of control over. But how important is it to you when you're lighting subjects to light to the actual subject itself and not a stand-in? Because so often I find myself lighting to another person. Their skin complexions may be different, their facial structure may be different, and they get in the seat, and then it makes me look like I was unprepared when the light is just reading totally different on this next person. So how important is it? And again, we don't have a lot of control over it, oftentimes, but how important is it for you to light to the subject itself, and why is it important or not important to you?
Yeah, I think I know on like big movies they're hiring a stand-in that looks like them in skin complexion and height, right? Because those are the two things that you need. So when you have that, everything's great. But when you don't, understanding the necessary details on your talent, I think helps. Like there are times I have to ask, like, what's their skin complexion? Are they super, super dark? Are they more brown? Are they, how tall are they? All those kind of things. Like, what are they wearing? Right? Are they wearing a white shirt? Because that's going to change how it bounces this way versus, all your other stuff. So, but the thing is like, you're not always going to get that information. And so I always try to hope that I get at least 5 minutes before we start rolling with them just sitting there. Give me 5 minutes, let me tweak it, and then we're out. But to do that, I have to be prepared that I can switch things up, right? Like if I get in a low light situation, maybe not a low light situation. If I get in a situation where I'm pushing out all of my light on for the key and I'm at 100% on that thing, and then I don't leave myself any room to be able to dial it up more, right? Then I have to, when the guy sits in or girl, I have to like get a whole nother light in there, right? So you kind of want to have a base, especially like on interviews or something like that, where you're maybe like on a camera, you're changing your ISO. Instead of running it at the native, you bring down your ISO at, a little lower, and then you go 100% on your light. That way, if they sit in and they look too dark, you can real quickly just bump it up just in your camera, versus if you got to change the light or got to put a new ND filter on. So like those are really quick and easy things that you can do to just prepare yourself to not have to take another 20 minutes to relight somebody.
That's a super good ninja tactic, man. I always try to give myself some room on my ISO. I'm one of the people that I rarely shoot at 800 ISO on a red if I have to. I try to live in that 320 space or 400 as much as possible.
And
you
do it for your lighting too, right?
Yeah.
You don't just run your light at 100%, right? Light it at 80 or something.
Right.
That way you have range, and not just your camera equipment or your lens, but at least also on your lighting, you can switch it all up.
Yep. I love it, man. I love it. Well, dude, quick question. I saw on your Instagram bio that you work as a local in New York, LA, and Texas. How are you doing this? Are you just flying in for the job, or what does that even mean?
This is also a running thing I deal with living in Texas, is that because I am in Texas, I am not a professional DP. And so usually a lot of projects come into town and they outsource their DP from LA or New York all the time. I know people that live in LA and New York that lived in Austin before, and they work in Austin more now than anything else because they're in LA or New York, right? So and every person that I do meet that's in the same industry, that is like, if I worked with them in New York or whatever, they're like, oh, I'm just couch surfing. So they'll fly to the project if the project pays enough and get an Airbnb or whatever. And I do the same thing, but I have friends in LA, so I can stay in LA. And I have friends in New York, I can stay in New York, or even in Orlando. So it's kind of one of those things like the competition is, while it's great, it's super annoying because you're going like, there are really good people locally that you can hire that need the work, who can't get any of the good work because it's all of a name at that point. It's a name brand of like the location. Getting a Google phone that says you're from LA with an 818 number, that's like a trick that a lot of people do. And so I can tell you a number of people that like they don't live in those towns or cities, but like they just travel to go do that because they're always going to want to have that local person when they're in LA or New York. But when they come to third coast or whatever, like Austin, they're going to want to have the LA or New York DP. So like put it on there. Everybody does it. Everybody kind of lies a little bit on their resume. And I'm not saying I'm a huge liar, but like it is something I can work as a local. Do I want to take the work from those locals? No. But I want the appearance of like I am somewhat of a high-end DP that you can call, and I'm based in Austin, and it shouldn't matter at that point. If the pay rate is like $2,500 a day and it's a 6-day shoot, I will fly my ass there.
Totally.
and like that's a good rate. And
absolutely.
So yeah. So that's why. I mean, it's on there for that.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's a
great strategy. Yeah,
it is a great strategy.
I've seen other DPs and filmmakers do that, and that totally makes sense. Yeah. That's a great tip right there. I know Joey's about to go.
I know.
Look at a Google 818 number.
Yeah, I'm about to go get 3 phones, one for the plug. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's a mind game. Like it's the same thing with, and this was with Rust, right? When that movie happened, is the perception of what a union person is and non-union from some people is non-union people are inexperienced. And that was when the whole thing with Rust happened, they were talking about it was a non-union armor, and so you're immediately thinking like non-union, an inexperienced person. When in contrast, that like I feel a lot of union camera operators or DPs have very little experience because they can't get on union work or only the union jobs. So like you look at their reels and stuff and they're not that great, right? Or they're very, very old or average or whatever. And so maintaining the perception of like being a professional. So like, yeah, I need to go union just so I have that perception of like I am a professional. But if I have that perception of like I am an LA based or a New York based DP, people also think that if you're from those towns, you are, very experienced in your field, and it's just not the case at all. So, because those two towns, like, they got thousands of people that all compete for the same stuff. Like you live in Dallas, and you're like probably one of like 4 dudes that people are gonna call, and you're gonna get all that work, right? So,
yeah. It's outside perception for sure. That's 100% what it boils down to. And
that sums it up. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love it. But dude, there's a lot of up and coming DPs that will listen to this episode, and obviously you have a plethora of experience to pull from. Is there any advice for the up and coming DP that you really feel like helped propel you in your DP career forward that the up and comer can then implement that will help them?
Yeah, actually, funny, I talked about this on another podcast recently, is when I was starting out, the typical thing to experience is people yelling at you and not taking it personal, right? You're going to get that all the time. And unfortunately, that's just been how I'm not saying that's okay, but when you get into tight scenarios where you're being rushed or it's safety or something like that, and somebody's going to yell at you because you're doing either it wrong or something, people should not be offended by that, because in the end, like, it has happened to me, and the guy later, when we're driving back from, I don't even know where we were, he was like, "Hey man, I hope you don't take offense that I yelled at you in the moment. It was just like you're about to ruin my cables." And I was like, "Dude, I'm fine. Let's go have a beer." And that's usually like, unless you're awful at your job, then I'm not going to go have drinks with you. But people that take offense that easily, like, it's just, you're gonna have a hard time getting on other projects that I don't know how to explain this. I think you're just gonna have a harder time trying to like one, get along with everybody, and then not take it personally, and then you're just gonna always be down on yourself, like, oh, I suck, or this production sucks because this guy yelled at me, and it's like,
Well, and one of the
it's never a
things,
good thing.
yeah, one of the things too, like in the middle of production, especially if you're a DP or a director or, one of the keys, you have a lot of pressure that's riding on you to do your job. And there's a lot of dollars that's being, put onto your, your shoulders and your responsibility to make sure it's successful. And when somebody is doing something that can ultimately damage the project, a lot of times I have found, there have been a few times when I've had to rein myself back in and be like, look, this is a person and I got to let the stress of the project go. And I think it's something that easily happens when you're responsible for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to, have an emotional moment of weakness, more or less. And so it's just, to your point, it's part of the process. And a lot of times once you're cool and level headed after the fact, it's like, dude, I'm so sorry I said it like that. It's part of the, you can't destroy my stuff, or you were about to unplug a light while it was still turned on. And you know what I mean? It's just things like that happen.
Right.
And so, yeah.
I will say though, I say all that, but on the other end of that spectrum, I don't like working with people who are assholes. Like, it's just not, it's this day and age that it is not something that needs to happen. And it's just not, it's not conducive for a good working environment anyway, right? And I particularly don't like working with people that are like that. And I don't want to hire people that are also like that, because it just makes a bad environment and a bad experience for everybody. And, so my advice would be, don't take things personal, but also don't be the asshole, or don't be an asshole, right? Those are the two biggest things I think that'll get you anywhere, because like, you may not be that great at a certain role in some project, but he's a really nice person and he's really great to work with because he makes the environment fun for everybody, and the clients love him because he's, very communicative, but he appreciates everything. And I think that just is going to go way further than if you were just the biggest grump on set that you could possibly think of, and then you're yelling at everybody. I've worked on so many sets where that is the case, and everybody on set is grumpy, and it changes the overall mood of the whole situation, and it does change the quality of the work, right? And then stuff ends up going by the wayside. Things get broken because people are pissed, or vice versa. I don't necessarily like working with people that do that kind of stuff. I think I used to be one a long time ago, but that I think is more important than anything else.
People like to work with people they like, and it's that simple, man. If you want to go far in this industry, be a likable person. That's pretty much all there is to it.
One of our pillars at Cinema Story is experience is everything, and that's for the client, that's for the crew. And so we run not like a strict set, but we're very careful and cautious of how we all communicate to each other, because we've been doing this for a long time. There's always things that are going to go wrong on a set. And if you're going to, like you said, be an asshole or complain about it or get frustrated, it only damages the project. It really does. Now, you do have to have thick skin when you're on other people's projects. For example, that Hulu set, the AD tore up all the PAs after day one, and we all deserved it. Because we weren't, nobody told us exactly what he was wanting, and there was a lot of breakdown in communication, but half the PAs left and a second AD left after that. And then the next day, I'm doing 3 people's jobs. Now I know what I'm supposed to be doing and doing 3 people's jobs. So it's like, and this guy's from LA, and he's like, look, I'm from LA, and I don't know how y'all do it in Texas. But, I heard a lot of different words and called a lot of things, and it was just like, I get it. I came back. I'm like, cool. I'm learning. This is great. I'm not going to take offense, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I'd really want to find this guy, on the production hub and IMDb and work with him again.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to work on the next project that this person does.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's like, an opportunity to work on the biggest movie possible. I'm like, well, this guy was a complete asshole.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yep.
Now, I also say that and say, like, money has a lot to do with the project.
If you pay me enough money,
it's
yourself.
worth it for me not to care too much, right?
Right.
Yeah, like if you're a butthole on everything, people are not going to care too much about your project because everybody there is getting a regular paycheck. You're as a DP, you're more invested in it because of the look of it with your director and in hopes that you're going to get other work. But like your G&E guy, you're one of like 1,000 DPs that they've worked with. They don't need your shit, right? Yeah. So they don't care, and they're not going to care to work hard for you if you are complete shithead to them. So, sorry, I don't know if I'm ruining all your.
No. It's all good. No, yeah, dude. And one thing I know we're pressed on time, but one thing that you lightly just dropped in there is that you've been a part of a helicopter crash, and I got to know about the heli crash, man.
I did a sizzle reel that will never see the light of day, and I'm in West Texas filming the coolest thing I'd ever seen, which is these guys that fly the tiniest helicopters. They're flying around big game animals to capture them. So what they do is they have a cowboy with a net gun, and they're shooting a net at an animal, and then they jump out. They jump 30 feet in the air to go and rope this animal, right? So it's the most insane cowboy stuff I had ever seen. And the way that these helicopters fly, I mean, you're not just flying like a normal. They're banking like this, but they're
FPV
doing it so
helicopters.
fast. These animals are going at 100 speed, 100 miles an hour or whatever, 100% to get away from you, and the helicopter's job is to wrangle it and corral them where they need to go. And so you're flying like it's a roller coaster. And I'm in the back of a 4-person helicopter filming with a giant tape camera and it with an eyepiece. And I'm doing this whole thing filming I'm like, and it was a very windy day in West Texas to the point when he banked, he went like this and banked to turn around. The wind had pushed him and he lost lift. And it was the first time that this thing just decided to just go down. And it wasn't a bad crash because we were only 40 feet in the air. So it wasn't like, it was a very, very, very hard landing. But I asked the pilot, I was like, well, it was a crash. He goes, no, it wasn't. We landed. I'm like, well, did you mean to land? He goes, no. I'm like, well, then you crashed it. I don't know what to tell you. But in the video, we basically, he was really good is what he ended up doing. And when you're coming down on the helicopter, he flared it. He tilted it up. And because of that, it softened our blow. But we hit it, and then we slid across for a good 50 feet, right? Wow. So then, we're just doing one of these things. And once we got and landed, one of the guys got out. He went and looked at the helicopter, and he goes, everyththing's good, boss. Got back in, and we took off, and we kept flying. Right after that I'm filming a bunch of a herd of ram going up a hill, and these beautiful animals. And I put the camera down, and I hurl right on them because I got so airsick just from that experience. And it's
oh my god!
And this is also how I got into drones in the first place, because there's been so many helicopter crashes, and I've been in helicopters for filming, in Alaska and Colorado and stuff. And in the end, like, I'm not in control of flying, so I don't like necessarily being the passenger. So flying a drone is way easier and safer, all that kind of stuff. So that's how I ended up into the drone industry a little bit in that world. So.
That's awesome, man. Do you have your Part 107?
Yeah, I've had my Part 107 for a while. I think I need to renew it, but I haven't done that in a while.
They made the process
got a couple drones.
super easy now, and it was scary for a little bit, but now it's not too bad. But
yeah, it's totally worth it. Everybody should get it if you're a DP and you want to, if you can do documentary, go get it, because it just makes it easier for everybody.
I love it, man.
So.
Well, dude, we have reached the part of the show where we get to our final 5 questions that we like to ask every single guest. So before we wrap you out of here, man, if you could go back and do it all again differently in your film career, what is one thing that you would change?
Wow.
I know we come in really strong with that final 5 questions, but if you could spare somebody else from heartache that you had to experience in your career, what is one thing that you would do differently?
I think I would have networked a lot sooner, right? Well, maybe it's 2 things. That plus maybe not get into reality shows right off the bat, but because again, it's a lot harder to get out of it if you don't want to do it long term. But you know, the nice thing about people that go to film school is they keep in contact with everybody and they all work together. It's the only thing I think is valuable about film school would be the contacts that you make with people at such a young age, right? I didn't start in the film industry until I was about 23. And if I was in college at 18, I mean, you guys are 4 years ahead of me in that world. And while I won't say go to film school just for that, you know, it is probably the most valuable thing you will get out of it. Yeah. And so I tend to work with a lot of people that have friends that are in the film industry, and they are all doing big stuff. And I'm still in the process of trying to develop relationships with a lot of other DPs, other directors that maybe haven't heard of me, only because I didn't start it, you know, way back in the day. And I'm not a brown noser. That's the hardest thing. So if you could do that and keep in contact with everybody, that's your first step.
I love it, man. I love it. What is one thing right now about the current film industry or market that excites you?
Give me a minute. And I shouldn't have looked at any of your other podcasts. You guys talked about AI.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that excites me. I think it scares me. But I think it will make my job easier and more attainable to shoot cooler stuff because of just being able to incorporate that in your scenes, right? But does it excite me? No. I don't know.
Semi-excited.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff with it. And if you are an indie filmmaker or one-man band situation, I think that thing is. I wish I had that 15 years ago, because I at this point in my career, I believe and I feel like I'm competing with people who are 20-something years old, who have mastered the AI stuff in all that world and are coming up with amazing videos and amazing content that I did not have any of that stuff. And so I'm having a harder time, and I guess there's a sign of old age, of being able to keep up with technology and, you know, learn how to text when texting didn't come out, you know, that kind of situation. So, I don't know. I hate to bring AI up again, but I feel like
it's a very relevant,
what everybody's talking about.
Yeah, it's a relevant topic, man, and there is a scary side of it, and there's an exciting side of it, and we have said in one of our earlier episodes, it is a tool that, you know, we have to adapt as filmmakers to learn how to leverage, or we'll get left behind in a lot of ways, because it'll make jobs easier, and it'll change the way jobs look. But I'm not as afraid of AI taking jobs away as us just having to get out of our comfort zones to learn how to utilize them. But I mean, we even utilize AI for this podcast, and it's helped streamline this podcast, and I'm not ashamed to talk about it. But we use a software called Autopod, which helps us get the bones for the podcast of this episode, and it's helped streamline our workflow. And we have to go back and double check it, and there has to be a human side of like QCing the process, but it spits out a multicam edit for us to allow us the freedom and flexibility to output these things with less manpower, but we still have to have a man to go and work the AI to begin with. it just it simplifies the process for us, and that's just one way that we've leveraged it in our own business.
Well, the volume can go up, but I'm torn. I'm kind of in both camps, because that's what, in fact, we talked about this on one of the other podcast episodes. I don't think it's dropped yet, but we talked with a writer that is in the strike, current, lockup, and it is taking people's jobs, because the studios want to use AI to write scripts now and then have a writer polish it off. So I think everybody's just trying to figure out how to navigate those waters, right? And so that's why I don't think it has to be scary if people do the right thing, but people got to do the right thing as well and treat people right. And so you can always count on that.
I think that's the the whole point of those strikes, right? Because it's a lot of the AI stuff, and all of the way the film industry is now, it has a lot to do with the previous strikes from all the other stuff that happened before. And while everybody is succeeding, and I feel like the film industry is amazing now than it was 10, 20 years ago, the AI stuff that's happening, if the strikes end and they don't get the protections that they need, then we're in a whole nother ballgame, and it's going to be very scary for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But if the studios cave and then the writers get what they need and all that kind of stuff, I think it just creates a new era of content creation that utilizes AI as a tool for sure, but protects everybody. And in that way, we're all on the same playing field, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of just waiting to find out what happens with that. I think one of the coolest things I think that has come out of AI is with the LED wall stuff, because you're utilizing a little bit of AI to be able to help
enhance
enhance all that stuff. And I got to go see the one that's down here in Austin, and it's just like, it's really cool, and the possibilities that you can do with that is just infinite. So I think in technology, that's probably the coolest thing, is the LED stuff. But AI is definitely part of that, right? So
love it, man. Love it. Where do you feel like we as an industry are heading right now in filmmaking, and what should we be focusing on?
Where we are in industry and filmmaking. I guess a turning point, I think.
I guess, like you mentioned
Marvel
it.
Stuff.
With the go into.
Oh, I did.
Well, I was gonna say the writer's strike, but yeah, no, go into the Marvel thing.
Well, I will tell you that my resume was written by AI, and it's great. Like I was helping a producer. She had to write. She written the whole thing about the look of the show, or the style synopsis of this or whatever. She goes, "Can you help me read it and reword it for more of a DP lingo and sense?" And I literally, in the middle of the night, grabbed it, took 5 minutes. I had AI redo it 3 times, which took, of course, 60 seconds. And she had a much better, a much better paragraph per thing to explain it, that gave it a little bit more emotion to it or whatever. And I'm not a writer. I hate writing, so for me, it's great. I love it. But you got to use it as a tool. It can't be your, everything, right? So, I mean, AI is it's just copies of what we've already done. So you've got to make your own new stuff so they can at least work with that, right? Mm-hmm. But as far as the film industry goes, I think right in this particular moment, I think people are getting really tired of, and this has a lot to do with the strikes. I think people are really tired of the Marvel, the typical, superhero stuff. Okay, it's overplayed, man. It's done. I think every new superhero thing that's come out has been crap in writing, mainly. Not really cinematography, just in the writing. And so, hence the writer strikes. And I think there's a lot at stake if they can get it, because I don't know if you ever played with it in that sense, but if AI writes something it just lacks a
soul,
depth.
Man. There's no soul in the writing.
Exactly. And so that has a lot more at stake than anything else. Like everybody loves the being an actor and everybody loves being the DP, but like the writers are like the soul of every process that's happening. And if they don't get it, if they don't get what they need out of this whole thing, like we're going to be in a whole nother ball game that I don't think anybody's ready for. I mean, we're seeing it, we're starting to see it, especially with social media and using AI for all that kind of stuff. But if we all of a sudden start having AI write full blown scripts, it's going to suck, and people aren't going to go and watch these things because there's not going to be any depth to it. And so because of that, I think what will end up happening is just like Marvel is right now. People are going to be so tired of it that they're going to start, making something better, more emotional, or, have more depth to it. And then AI kind of gets pushed to the side. And then all of a sudden, like, well, this is the real stuff. We'd rather watch this. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think
it's
that's
a huge
super good.
theory. It can go anywhere.
Yeah, I love that. I haven't actually heard anyone put it that way, but I really enjoy that perspective, and I hope that the writers get what, all of the demands that they're demanding, because I think it'll be better for the film industry overall.
A good example of that would be like, any movie that comes out, right? And you're looking at it, you're not really having any movie that is a Marvel or superhero movie that's winning awards. People, I think, are getting tired of that. And so now you're starting to see a resurgence of original stuff come out that people are really interested in and want to see it. And then all of a sudden that's the route it's going to take, right? That's why Oppenheimer did so well. That's why Barbie's done so well, because it's not a superhero movie. Now all of a sudden the movie theaters are packed.
Yeah.
Because it's something different.
Yep. So I love it, man. What is one piece of advice you can give to filmmakers trying to grow in their craft or their business?
Don't be an asshole.
Covered already in detail. Love it. Last question. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay. I love it.
I'll keep it at that. Yeah.
Last question for you, brother. Who is the one filmmaker that you admire and why?
Man, I'm really Christopher Nolan right now. I've been Christopher Nolan for a while, and say what you will about like Tenet and a couple other, like Dunkirk or whatever, but he's come up with really original, beautiful imagery and beautiful stuff that I think people don't give him a lot of credit for, right? I mean, really bringing it back to superhero movies, he is literally the reason why we have Marvel and all those other things. Because he
Batman
brought
trilogy.
And he did the Dark Knight, man, and that was like, what is this? This is not a typical superhero thing, and now all of a sudden we're getting Deadpool and like really dark, Joker, for instance. And so he has created a whole industry that didn't exist before on that front. And my favorite movie is Inception and Interstellar. Like those are my two favorites.
I am such a big fan of Interstellar. I slept on that movie for so long, and I watched it late, and it blew my mind how good that movie was. I am such a fanboy of that movie.
To this day, it's still, and with Inception, he even brought it into just the music, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you like that one soundtrack is slowed down and sped up. That is the whole movie, and you're going like, there's and that song is the soundtrack that they play in it. So it's like he goes into more detail than you could possibly ever think of.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Oppenheimer too. I mean, there's so many nuances and stuff that you're seeing in there that you're not even really noticing that the process and like everything else that's going. So like, I think he's a genius, but I did not like Dunkirk because I like a linear path in timelines, and so Dunkirk was like all over the board.
He shows like his timeline thing in a video, and it's like very back and forth, and Dunkirk was it didn't feel like a Nolan film for me. I don't know why. It didn't feel like his original secret sauce was in that one.
The thing I didn't like about Dunkirk was like just even the Spitfire scene where you're in the airplane, and it felt so real to me.
Yeah.
For any other World War II movie that I've seen, and it just like it's so CGI'd. that thing was like, he literally created the actual plane, and then they did some stuff to it, so like I really appreciate his use of practical effects and
100%.
have that be the bulk of everything. I mean, Oppenheimer had one CGI shot in it, and it was because they had to cover up Florence Pugh's naked scene in India or whatever, right? So like, what's mind-boggling to me about him is trying to understand how he shot Tenet, and then that one I still am very confused about Tenet, but how, like, I need to dive into that one and be like, how did you do this, man? Because
one of the crazy facts about Nolan too that I found out is he planted 500 acres of corn to shoot his cornfield chase scene, and I'm just like, the level that Nolan goes to execute his shots and do in-camera practical effects in solitude, like, is so inspiring as a filmmaker.
And that was Interstellar, wasn't it? And I think rumor has it that he made money after that.
He sold the corn and then made money. Like, what a genius.
Brilliant. That's how filmmaking should be done.
Yeah,
I love it, man.
Right. You got to have all your all your how many financial streams you have going on.
Yeah, right.
He has his movie stream, but then he uses all the other parts of the movie to sell.
I'm also a farmer.
Right, Nolan the farmer, man. He's got a very successful farm career. Yeah. I love it. Well, bro, this has been an amazing episode, man. We really appreciate you giving your time, your expertise, and wisdom on this episode, man. It's been great to reconnect, and we appreciate your time. For those that want to get connected with you, man, what is the best way to get in touch?
I would say Instagram, but I am old school, so email and website and phone number, right? But I'm starting to get more Instagram stuff, so I got to keep up with y'all Xenials or Gen Z guys. So no, seriously, thanks for having me. I love doing these things. So
yeah, man.
I mean, every DP likes talking about themselves. So,
relatable indeed.
That's true, guys.
Well, man, thanks again for joining us on this episode. It's been a blast. Great connecting with you again. And we will catch all of you guys on the Rough Cut Club next time, so stay tuned.